You know what? You know what? Screw it. Play the actual music.
And that's all I'm going to play because, copyright and all of that. But welcome to Nerdvana podcast for this special treat. We're trying to make this a special 2-part review session for the classic, the masterpiece, the icon, Jaws.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
This has been... Honestly, I don't know why we haven't reviewed this until now. We've been doing this review series for about 1.5 years, roughly. Mm-hmm. And we're just now getting the Jaws. But it's... assuming everything goes according to plan, this should be coming out on the 4th of July.
In that case, happy Independence Day, everyone. The second half should be up the next day.
And to all our friends over in the UK, yes, this is Happy Trader Day.
Yeah. I forget that. I wonder if that... I don't think it's actually called that in the UK, though. If it is, I wouldn't be... If it is, I wouldn't be shocked.
It's a running joke they have with us.
Oh, it is. Alright, so Jaws. Mr. Benoit, what we have here is a perfect reel and an absolute masterpiece. All this masterpiece does is scare and play and inspire new filmmakers.
Yes. Okay, that's it. Review over.
Yes, review.
See you, everyone.
Yeah. I really mean it. This is an absolute masterpiece of a film. It is. I've watched this 100 times, and it's still just so amazing to watch because it seems to get better and better with every viewing, and it's timeless. I mean, I've seen this when I was a kid, double digits. I mean, and yes, sharks scared me. I was afraid to go in the water, any type of water. After this, but I still love this. Ian, was this your first time watching it?
No, I've seen it multiple times. I don't know how many times, but I got my copy of Jaws for Christmas a couple years back. And I watched it that same night, Christmas night, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I was like 15 years old, so it was great. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
I still love it.
And it has always been one of my favorite movies. But now I think with this year, it's actually become my all-time favorite movie because it just seems to fit 2020 so well. I know if you're listening, that's kind of a pessimistic way of saying that, but it just struck me, when I had a conversation, when I'm talking with mom and hearing about these White House press conferences and how we got there's something that is harming the safety of not only American citizens but the people of the world, and our leader is just doing nothing about it. And I just brought up, sort of reminds me of the council scene from Jaws. I mean, there's a clear clear danger that is happening, but they kind of treat it as it's just, but they kind of treat it as this is not something to be taken seriously. And so yeah, the scene where they have to, Brody is telling everyone that they have to close the beaches. Mayor overrides him, saying only for 24 hours, is just sort of kind of reminds me of the time that when I heard that America is going to be closed, all the stores are going to be closing. I can't go to any conventions now. For what could possibly be a year, because of this, and then our president says we'll be reopening soon. I felt like I was in so many different places. I mean, I was in the townspeople's mind of how like 24 hours is like 2 weeks. Okay, I lived in isolation for 3 weeks. Okay, so check yourself.
24 hours is nothing.
At least nowadays. Back in the 70s, there was no internet.
True.
But yeah, it's just Jaws now feels like it's so much more timeless now, and doesn't matter whether it's like an environmental crisis, a biological crisis, a political crisis, anything. It just feels like it fits in anything. So yeah, that's my position on the movie. I love it, absolutely. It's a masterpiece. Ian, what about you?
Jaws, for me, it's a good film. It's not a good film. It's a great film. I love it. But there's a lot of impact that both impact my work from this film, as well as the work of other people that are in related fields to me. Not all of them good, but certainly inspiring. And first and foremost is what Jaws has done environmentally.
Negative?
Mostly negative, some positive. I see a cat.
Yeah, he decided to join.
That's fine. But now, when Jaws was released, or before it was released, and while it was being released in the theaters, do you know how much money Universal spent on advertising?
No.
$1 million in 74, 75. Which is a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
And they did that to create what is called a Jaws consciousness. I'll throw a link your way that you can put in the description if people want to check this out. Trey the Explainer did a video on this, and he reached out to a whole bunch of shark experts. Jaws marketing wanted to create a, quote, Jaws consciousness to make people afraid of sharks. And that has impacted our world negatively. Although it's not entirely Jaws' fault. It is a product of its time. We didn't really know that much, and it's first and foremost a horror thriller film.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's a horror movie where the monster is really not a product of mad science. It's not an alien. It is in fact a natural creature. In fact, what you said about how it's a product of his time kind of reminds me. I did catch a video on YouTube about how Jaws is impossible to remake. And
I just watched a video on that today, actually.
Yeah, and one of the things is that we now know, well, science now knows a lot more about sharks, not just great whites, but all kinds of sharks in general, than they did in the 1970s. In fact, Peter Benchley, the author of the original novel that the movie is based on, said that if he knew what he knew about sharks back then, he wouldn't have written the novel.
I just watched that. I think the same video you're talking about.
Okay.
And honestly, Jaws, if it was just Jaws and its series, it probably would have faded away. The Jaws mythos probably would have faded. Except a television phenomenon in the sometime in the 80s came out. Shark Week.
Oh, Shark Week, yeah.
And Shark Week, I used to love it. I used to love Shark Week.
I think a lot of us had that phase.
And now, seeing what first and foremost, their whole Megalodon mockumentary series, just laughable.
Oh my god.
Do you remember what I'm talking about, John?
No, I don't remember. It just brought up memories of a super volcano not like documentary, but like a what if made for TV movie, like if the caldera under Yellowstone National Park would erupt.
Oh. Yeah, no, there's the video, or the quote-unquote documentary, I'm air quoting.
I think the listeners can interpret that in your tone.
I hope so. They claim it was a mockumentary that tried to say that Megalodon never went extinct. And based on everything we know about that animal and related species, there's no way it would be able to live modern day simply due to geologic activity. And if it didn't go extinct, we would be seeing them all the time.
Okay.
It's a terrible thing that they made, but regardless, Shark Week has lost my respect simply due to how it portrays sharks. Initially, they tried to educate people on sharks, show people that they are, just real animals. And nowadays, seeing on how they portray sharks now with just the titles of their shows, like Blood in the Water and Monster Fish and all that stuff, it really perpetuates the Jaws mythos a lot more than it would be if they stayed to what sharks actually are.
Yeah. And yeah.
Honestly, partially due to Jaws, sharks were very quickly actually, started to be hunted. Not just great whites, which the animal in this film is.
Yes.
All sharks. And I want you to tell me what happens when you take out most of the apex predators in an ecosystem.
Well, let's see. Based on what I heard from Kong Skull Island, because there is an actual like natural scientist on the team, says that if you take out a dominant species, a competitor, or at least in this its competitor, or at least in this case its prey, its population will exponentially grow and deplete its resources.
Generally, yes, although we are also eating the fish that the sharks would generally eat as well. And honestly, it's kind of Jaws' fault, the film. Based on the limited knowledge that lawmakers have on sharks and, just marine biology, they passed legislation very quickly that put essentially open season on sharks for decades.
Wow. So
now animals that would be the size of the shark in Jaws are exceedingly rare. You rarely see large white sharks over 17 feet. as opposed to the 25-footer in Jaws.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there's an environment. This movie. I'm not ignoring the fact that there was some negative environmental impact that this film made, and yes, this movie did falsely plant the idea that sharks are man-eaters. I'm going to say that's kind of why we need, why we definitely need scientists, why we need conservationists, why we need people like you, Ian, to make sure that this knowledge, or at least this false knowledge, is brought to light, and that truth is, in the public conversation.
Yes, and that's a good segue into the positive effects of Jaws. Mm-hmm. Not only does it inspire filmmakers, but it inspires scientists. Without Jaws, sharks probably wouldn't be the phenomenon that they are now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody knows sharks. Everybody loves sharks. Most people love sharks, I should say.
Most people love sharks. The others are normally afraid of them.
Perhaps, yes. I had a few friends that were afraid of sharks, and I'm like, we can't be friends anymore. And frankly, I love the scientist character in Jaws.
Yeah, of course.
Matt Hooper.
Yeah, played by
Matt Hooper.
Yeah, played by Richard Dreyfuss, and one of the scenes that definitely shows, the scientific, where it just really showcases the scientific method is when the scene on the dock with the tiger shark. Everyone thinks that they caught it. And while everyone's celebrating, Matt's just there, doing in the zone, and he's taking all these measurements of the tiger shark's jaw, and comes back and says to Brody that this shark, the bite radius on this animal is different than the wounds on the victim. It is possible that they did catch the shark, because this is rare, and it is rare in these waters. But I'm not going to say that they caught the shark just yet.
Yeah, and honestly, when I saw him pull out the tape measure and start taking measurements of the mouth, I was like, "That's me! That's me!" Because I would be doing that. And then, right when I saw the teeth when they opened up the shark's mouth, I'm like, I got some of those teeth somewhere around here. Yeah,
it actually was a real tiger shark.
Oh, it was.
It was a real tiger shark, and it's funny because when I rewatched this some time ago, like very recently, like a month ago, I thought, wow, that shark looks very realistic because of the new knowledge. Now everyone kind of, or film geeks and scientists know that shark skin is not smooth. It's not soft. Not at all. And just seeing the skin fold on, it looked like foam. It looked like foam, and I was like, wow, that shark looks very realistic. Good job on them. Only to go onto IMDb and to find out, holy shit, that shark was real, and it really did stink up the dock.
Oh, I'm sure. Shark carcasses do stink. But yeah, I mean, just seeing the scientific analysis go into that entire scene with the tiger shark, is like, I like that. I really, really like that. And just the fact that they called in a scientist to help them is like, thank you for listening to someone who would actually know what the shit is.
Yeah. And I definitely love the chemistry that Hooper and Brody had together, especially in the dining room scene. Of course, there's a lot going on, but I just like there's a lot of good lines in this, and one of them on my list is Hooper saying that you're going to be the only rational man left on this island when I'm gone.
Another one from that scene I liked was, so how was your day?
Oh god, and let's see, Hooper brings over 2 bottles of wine. They take the red one. Brody pours into the wine glass, and then he pours it into his tall water glass.
Well, he needed it.
Uh-huh. Like I said, this film is now, even though the movie itself, what we got is perfect. The journey making that was absolute hell.
Oh my gosh. I think everybody knows. There might be that one person that doesn't know, but I'm pretty sure it's really easy to find all the information on how bad the production went.
Oh yeah.
Let's see.
The most common one that they'll find is that, of course, the shark did not work most of the time.
It worked a little bit.
It worked a little bit. The little, and that little bit was what made it into the film. Most of the time, it just did not work, and that was mostly because it was on a rail system that was put in salt water.
Yeah.
Salt water and metal don't mix.
Salt water and electronics especially don't mix.
I think the mechanics were mostly steam powered.
Okay.
It could have been steam powered. I had no idea how the rigging system worked. But I do know that usually when the shark pops up, you do see like some steam come out, or it could be, or it just could be the water, the water heating up or being sprayed everywhere.
Yeah, and it's aside from the shark constantly malfunctioning.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they had to do several retakes, because when you see the shark swimming along and you just see its dorsal fin and its tail moving along, coming out of what's called the pond, sometimes the quote-unquote model, it was literally just the dorsal fin and part of the tail, would raise up out, and you would see the metal rigging underneath, and it's like, you went too high up!
Yep. And
retake!
Yeah, and you know what? I also got to admire the little detail in that, because even before Jaws, there's sometimes kids programming or even or anything that has a shark in it will usually just show the fin, slicing through the top. And when you see a wide shot of the shark, the fin. It was the fin and the tail from behind it. When I saw that first, I was like, "Holy crap! There's 2 of them!"
No, that's the second. That'll be the second movie. I don't think so. I've seen the second movie, and I barely remember it.
The second one was all right, but it was the tail, and apparently that is supposed to be accurate. Mm-hmm. I think so. When a shark's fin does pop up, break through the surface of the water, so does the tip of its tail.
Well, yeah, because it's generally streamlined, and of course the tail will be held roughly straight out.
Yeah, but so far in future sequels and a lot of other movies and TV shows would actually take from this only shows the fin.
Not all of them are like Luna, guys. Their tails are generally healthy. Luna's the larger great white that had the bent tail fin.
Oh, okay. And so I got to admire that little detail of it. But getting back to, this is kind of what makes Jaws also very great in its own right, is because Spielberg his original vision for Jaws was to have the shark show up a lot in the movie, but because of the whole the shark kept malfunctioning, which so that it's out there, they named it Bruce, and so now I can't watch Finding Nemo without giggling a little bit.
That's a direct reference.
I know. That's why I mean, come on, think about it. Great White's name is Bruce. Come on! So yeah, I giggle a little bit. Anyway, but the malfunctioning actually served as kind of like a blessing in the long run, because one of Spielberg's greatest influences as a filmmaker was Alfred Hitchcock, who is dubbed the master of suspense. And so how Hitchcock describes writing suspense is that the audience knows something that the people on screen don't, and that's kind of that's what makes the first Jaws such a perfect Hitchcockian horror movie, is that we know the shark is there, either when we see it from its point of view, such as the opening scene with the female swimmer, or when we hear its theme song.
Yeah,
it's what we don't see that actually makes it much more scarier, and that's why the scene on the boat, when the crew is out searching for it, and it pops up finally, that's what makes it so genuinely scary.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel like this film and how it did that, did Spielberg take that from Hitchcock? The show don't tell in horror? Did Hitchcock?
I don't. As I said, I think he did, because as I said, Hitchcock was one of Spielberg's influences, and so he did describe it as trying to make the movie more like Hitchcockian. In fact, the iconic shot of Chief Brody, right after the boy gets dragged down and eaten, was where the camera is zooming in, but the background seems to be just zooming out.
The dolly zoom.
That is it was originally called the Vertigo shot because its first appearance was in the movie Vertigo by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes. Honestly, great cinematography in this film.
Oh yes, so you get POV shots from the shark, and you even get and there's even shots of camera in the water, which I don't know. I would like to see some behind the scene photos of those kinds of shots, because I want to know how big that camera was and what was the rig they used to get it in there.
If I recall correctly, don't quote me on this, I think it was just a big box.
A big box.
I would have sworn it was literally just a giant transparent box with a window.
Now, Ed, you know what? Speaking of, underwater shots, I mean, there's as you get older, you do tend to find out, especially the shark cage scene is really what I'm trying to get at. And when you watch this enough times, you get to be able to pick out like, oh, that's a fake shark. That's an actual shark.
Yes. They use real sharks for some of those shots.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so it was a scale model of the boat and the shark cage, and the one shot where the great white is actually on top of the cage, and it's just like pile driving or barrel rolling that thing. It was actually an accident, but I guess Bob Ross would call that a happy accident.
You know what actually happened there?
What?
The shark got stuck in the rope.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it got stuck in the rope, and
it kept trying to get out, and it proceeded to destroy the cage.
Well, hopefully the shark wasn't harmed too bad.
No, it got out. It was fine.
Yeah, but it just made. I mean, it just made for some great. It made for some great footage and really good way to just add even more fear. Like, oh my God, is Hooper gonna survive?
Yeah, because during that take, they forgot to put the scale dummy in the cage, so it was just this shark tearing apart a cage while it was trying to get out of rope.
Mm-hmm.
So they edited the film and the story a bit to have him swim out and survive. So I'm like, way to make use of unplanned footage. Yeah,
filmmaking is pretty much it's a crapshoot and a game of roulette all in one. I mean, it's all a matter of luck, and it challenges your problem solving abilities.
Oh yeah,
and Jaws is definitely one where there were a lot of problems that they had to solve, and they pulled it off.
They really did. And it's worth it, because how many shows, copycat movies have there been that at least reference Jaws?
Oh, there's a lot of movies that definitely are just direct rip-offs, or just overall shams or mockbusters of Jaws. From Shark Attack to Sharknado to Sharktopus to the Meg. Oh, the Meg. The Meg has got to be like the peak of shark movie shit.
I have not seen it, and I'm half tempted to go through it and pick out everything scientifically wrong. That'll be a 3-hour review.
That would be a 3-hour review. I think my problem is that it's just absolutely predictable, and the funny thing is, I knew it would be shit, because unfortunately, Jaws is a movie of firsts. It was the first summer blockbuster. It was actually the one of the first horror movies to actually be nominated for an Oscar. I think. I might be assuming on that.
Shut your vibration mouth. Where is that setting? I heard a meow.
Yeah, that's my cat. Come on, Hiccup. There you are. All right. It cemented Steven Spielberg as one of the great directors, and it was technically, I think, his second or third feature film, actually.
I think it was his second.
Yeah, because I know of Sugarland Express, and I don't know if it was Jaws next or Duel.
Duel came before Jaws. I remember that from the special feature.
Alright, so then this is his third. This would be his third.
Not bad for a third film.
I know. And unfortunately, Jaws, along with the negative environmental impacts which we talked about earlier, it also pretty much just started a genre of shark movies, and most of them have the reputation of being shitty because they just can't because they either the people writing it knows that it just can't live up to Jaws, or they just really don't really don't care at all. So, like I said, shark attacks, the shark attack movies 1, 2, and 3, which 3 is actually an even shittier version of the Meg because it involves a megalodon. The Sharknadoes, Sharktopus, that they're kind of get a pass because they are intentionally bad. They are so bad they're good. And I also give Deep Blue Sea a pass because it's almost like Jaws meets Jurassic Park without really any of the pressure of just trying to be good.
I haven't seen it. I think Sam L. Jackson's in that one, right?
He is, yeah. And funny enough, yeah, which makes the Jurassic Park reference even more funnier. But the movies that are just direct ripoff of Jaws, they're completely unashamed to admit that they are crap because for a shark movie it'll have some cliches on it that came from Jaws. One is, of course, calling a shark a son of a bitch, or at least some form of it. And the shark, and for some reason, because Jaws started it, at the end of every movie, a shark must blow up.
You know what I want to see?
A good shark movie?
Well, we have that.
It's called, I know, it's one that's just not that's not Jaws.
Yes, I want to see something in the style of Jaws, but a more conservation story, because we get all these crap shark movies seemingly every couple years. And all of them involve, murdering sharks, killing sharks, because, reasons. And
yeah.
I want to see a conservation story. Like, yeah, you have a problem with shark attacks. You can't exactly kill them, because how do you know you get the right one?
True.
So just make it a conservation story.
And that is alright, and it's all, and that's also not counting some of the not spin-offs, but the rip-offs that involve killer animals, most of them aquatic, that I found on Wikipedia. It was a brief glance at the page, but barracuda, orca, the killer whale,
which I saw that one. I saw that reference on.
Which I'm on Wikipedia.
I think it was a comment on YouTube on one of the videos I was watching.
Yeah, which I'm honestly curious about, because as it turns out, the orca is the natural enemy and predator of a great white. Which makes the fact that the boat is named Orca even more hilarious.
I was actually gonna go to that.
Sorry, sorry, I beat you to that.
Oh well.
Well, since there was a pause in that, why don't you say it, and I'll edit that.
Okay. Which actually makes the fact that the boat is called the Orca even more hilarious.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And of course we can't forget about the Joe Dante classic. Well, I don't know if you know about this one, Ian, but I'm a film nerd, so I do know. Piranha.
Removing headphones, walking away.
I'm not talking about the Spring Break remake.
I'm back.
Okay, I'm not talking about I said the Joe Dante one. So this is the original 1970s one, not the 2010s Spring Break remake. That was it's essentially softcore porn.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, the Piranha you're thinking about was a remake.
No wonder it looked terrible.
Mm-hmm. Well, not all remakes are bad. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, honestly, I think Jaws kind of did start my kind of love of giant monster movies, more natural Earth creatures. Not Godzilla. I have Power Rangers to thank for that. But Lake Placid and Anaconda. Those ones. You didn't like Anaconda?
I've seen clips of it. It's so bad.
Yeah, it
Having
is.
worked with snakes, it is so bad.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so so we all do most of us do have that phase where we do pick out a certain horror genre. I guess it was giant monsters, because I like the idea that these are creatures that do exist and could probably exist, but in reality, no. Like, there's not gonna be a mako the size of a blue whale.
The hell?
The deep blue sea.
Yeah, no.
Okay. There's never. Well, it was only that size because it was genetically altered.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not gonna see a crocodile, the size of a semi, hopefully. When I say size, I guess I mean the length of a semi.
I'm gonna send you a picture later.
And even though I know they exist, I'm not gonna be in an area where anacondas and pythons are common.
Don't go to Florida.
Noted.
They have an invasive species problem with reticulate Burmese pythons, I believe.
Ooh.
Yeah, so. But.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, which part of Florida? Is it all of Florida?
Everglades.
Just the Everglades.
I
okay.
think so. Don't quote me on that, but that's where I know they have a serious issue with them.
Okay. But yeah, I can bring it all back to Jaws because it is that iconic horror. It's that iconic monster horror movie, natural monster horror movie. Okay, yeah.
I thought you had more to say.
No, I don't think I have any. I think it's because these are actual creatures. There is some semblance of realism to it, which makes the scares much more, well, even more intense. Mm-hmm. And so So I that's what I like. I like a sense of realism in my horror. I like a sense of realism in my visual effects. I just like a sense of realism.
So do I. And honestly, I got into a lot of that sort of same thing, like big monster movies from not Jaws, but Jurassic Park. I mean, obviously,
yeah, of course.
Look at my set.
I know.
But it's tying that into Jaws. We honestly need more. Well, I shouldn't say more. We need better movies like that. We need more realistic threat. Now, we can always have, the nice alien movie or, the Predator movie or...
Mm-hmm.
We're not even going to go to Terminator. I'm going to stay away from that topic for now. But...
Yeah, well, franchise technically dead now.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, we need better movies with real animals. It doesn't always have to be horror movies. It can be, like I said, conservation stories or just, a pure survival story with real animals. And honestly, I think that's a good way to tie in, the majesty and beauty of these natural creatures that do exist in our world to show that, they live alongside us and they can still be dangerous. They can still be deadly. I would like to see something of a survival story about people stranded somewhere with cassowaries.
With what?
Cassowaries.
What are those?
About 5 foot tall rat-type birds, flightless. They have a large, elongated claw on their foot.
So they're like emus or ostriches?
Yes. They have a bony crest on their head. I think last year or something, a guy got killed by his quote-unquote pet cassowary. It actually gutted him.
Whoa.
Open up a tab right now, please.
Okay.
Type in cassowary attack and press enter.
Is that with a K or a C?
C. Cassory. I think I spelled that right.
SSORY?
OWARY. Cassowary. Attack.
There we go.
And press enter. Take a look at what they...
Cassowary attack. Giant bird kills owner in Florida, of course.
Go to images.
Oh, that bird. So that's what it was. I remember that from Fern Gully.
Yeah, they're dinosaurs, dude.
Well, of course, they're birds.
Don't tell me feathered dinosaurs aren't scary.
Okay. All right, that bird could probably be scary since it could kill me, and it's got a claw.
But anyway, back to Jaws.
Yeah. And I kind of agree with you on that, Ian. That we would need more. We should have more movies that are not necessarily the horror element, or at least not the whole the whole killer animal man-eater kind of thing.
Attack of the Killer Shrews. Remember that?
But
film.
I don't think they should be gone entirely. They are pretty basic. They're basic films, and they have they're basic stories. I think they're good for new filmmakers. Especially ones who want to start out. Same thing with Jaws.
Yeah. They just have to be done well.
Yeah. All right. So there's kind of like a lot of this movie does have has a lot of influences in it. The most obvious one is Moby Dick in the form of Quint.
Yeah.
But the beginning half is I've actually briefly mention this in my original review series. How the first half is like this Norwegian play called An Enemy of the People, and it's actually roughly the same. It's roughly the same thing. It's very similar. It does involve someone who knows that something is harming citizens, but this is something. But the thing that's harming them is actually what makes their town prosper. It is an economic boom for them. But because the economy is so dependent on it that they are just reluctant. That the people are kind of reluctant to get rid of the problem, and the problem is in the form of a toxic bacteria in their spas.
I think I remember this video. Yeah. I mean, it basically... I can sum up all of these things. Issue arises, most authorities do absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, when you're young, it's kind of pretty clear. It's pretty clear that there's your heroes and villains. It's obviously Chief Brody and Matt Hooper. They're the heroes. The Shark and the Mayor. They're the bad guys. It's just that naive black and white mentality. But as you kind of get older, you can kind of understand that there is some gray area to that. Mm-hmm. The Mayor is not a bad guy. I mean, yes, he didn't handle the shark problem, but to be fair, even the doc who gave the report at the beginning also backtracked on his initial finding. He was more concerned about the town's economy.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's a good film. You don't see too many films like that nowadays, where, you know, most of the human characters are... I actually have to disagree that the Mayor is even bad. I mean, he's looking out for the townspeople. He knows that, like you said, the town, like, well, quote from the movie, Amity is a summer town. They need summer dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look into, like, well, Chief Brody is obviously also looking out for the people. He just knows there's a big predatory fish in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Hooper is also concerned about the fish problem. And Quint, he's, again, not a bad guy. He's
more obsessed because of some form, what I called survivor's guilt in my original video, which I still believe that.
Yeah, survivor's guilt, and I think also a bit of vengeance. He wants vengeance for what happened.
Yeah.
That's part of why I think you can't exactly remake Jaws nowadays, because one, Quint would obviously be portrayed as a villain.
Oh my God, he would practically be a Bond villain.
And the Mayor would probably also be portrayed more of a villain.
Yes.
Once again, they wouldn't listen to the scientists at all. That much would probably more than likely stay the same. And Chief Brody would probably, be portrayed by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or somebody or other.
Oh, and the scientist would be Kevin Hart.
We watched the same exact video.
I don't know if I did see that video, but Rock and Kevin Hart. I mean, we all know that they're now they're the next big guy small guy pairing since Schwarzenegger and DeVito.
And honestly, just seeing And that goes into those reports that were, or at least rumors, that were floating around the internet a couple years back that Spielberg would remake Jaws.
Oh, jeez.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that, and it would be very out of character for him because he, along with a handful of other filmmakers, don't shoot their films digitally. They still use the old celluloid reels because that gives film its look. So he's very old-fashioned, and he's also very protective of his creations. Mm-hmm. Now, if he made a sequel, an actual sequel to Jaws that ignores 3D and The Revenge because 2 is okay, the other 2 was okay, the others
I haven't seen them.
I wouldn't recommend 3D or The Revenge. 2 is okay. It's just okay.
Yeah.
But
it does interesting things. 2 does interesting things. Mm-hmm. It's not great, but it.
All right. So I can see Spielberg would make a sequel to Jaws 2 because he did make a sequel to Indiana Jones. But then again, he made the last 3. But I can't see him remaking his movies, either by way of George Lucas method, or just or really creating something new.
I mean, that was a rumor / report that was floating around the internet a couple years back. Obviously, Spielberg shut that shit down real quick.
That's good, because I think even though he's very proud of Jaws, I mean, the production problem still haunts him to this day.
Yeah, I feel to remake that thing again, it's gonna go even worse. He also said that if he did make Jaws and CG was available, he would have showed the shark a lot more, which probably would have hurt the film. Oh yeah,
and no doubt about that. I wholeheartedly agree. What is really great about the original Jaws is how it not only keeps the shark unseen, but how it kind of by also how it kind of builds up, with for lack of a better term, a bait and switch with the tiger shark.
Yeah. Nice pun.
Yeah, because it really is, because there's no other better way to describe it. I mean, the editing is so good. When Hooper is examining the remains of the victim, and that scene ends with him going, "It's a shark," and it cuts straight to that mouth of the shark being hoisted up, and you think, yes, that's the shark. It's gotta be. They got it, or something like that, and then only to hear that it may be the shark, but there's also a possibility it isn't. And then the tooth comes in, and then you hear it's a great white. This is the big one.
Yeah, and an abnormally sized great white at that.
So they don't go up to 25 feet?
I'm not aware of them getting that big. It's possible, but it would be extremely rare.
Okay, so yeah, it's built up so well.
Oh yeah, and you just see little glimpses. First, you don't see the shark at all. Then you see a little bit when it's attacking the boy.
Oh yeah.
And then you see the tiger shark's mouth open, or wrong bite radius. Oops. And then you see a few more glimpses of it swimming around on 4th of July.
Yeah.
It drags the dude underwater. And you see it under the water. It's just like, oh, shit.
And we actually do get a first full glimpse of the shark, you know, when he pulls the man down, not just under the water, but he actually does break the surface of the water.
Oh, that's right, yeah. It's just a quick little glimpse. I forget about that, but yeah.
And then we just see its fin, and we don't see it for like half an hour.
And the next time we see it...
we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Slow ahead. Hey, I can go slow ahead. Why don't you come on over here and shovel some of this shit?
Apparently, according to IMDb, here we go. When a Midwestern audience were shown an early cut of the film, they were so shocked by the pop-up scare that occurs when the great white shark breaches the surface of the water as Brody jumps off the bow of the boat, that their reactions drowned out his ironic comment, "We're gonna need a bigger boat." They were so scared. They were screaming for so long. All right. But here's the thing. After reviewing their taping of the moment, the filmmakers extended the sequence, adding another 35 feet of film to give the audience enough time to recover to enjoy the much-needed moment of comic relief. So in an early cut, a test screening audience, that the moment between the shark popping up and the iconic line was actually a little bit shorter. Because I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. It's like, oh my god, they were actually screaming for 30 seconds. Something. Because I'm just imagining like one guy going, oh, 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 oh my god, oh.
And then it's the whole audience.
Yeah.
And honestly, I remember this other bit of trivia. In some of the premieres, when the shark is attacking the little boy on the beach, with all the blood spraying everywhere, people ran out of the theater to throw up in trash cans. I remember that from somewhere. I think it was special features.
I kind of believe that.
Keep in mind, everyone,
and
75.
1975, blood was not as realistic as it's made to look nowadays, but it's still pretty gross. In fact, I miss that type. I miss that kind of blood.
And it's just spraying out of the water going...
Oh my god, yeah.
If you look around, I'm sure you can find like old tapes of the initial screening from the premiere, and people are just screaming at that. Is it wrong that when I watched it just today before this review, I was going, yes, eat them all! Oh.
I don't know. I mean, if it was your first viewing, maybe.
No, I've seen this before, and
yeah. So
I did the same thing with Aliens. So
yeah.
But I mean,
let's see.
Reading up all the people who saw it in theaters in summer of '75. Just reading all of them, seeing the old tapes and seeing and reading what everybody did in the theaters at certain moments in the film, it's just like, damn, I was born in the wrong year.
I know. I sometimes feel that if I was actually born in the 70s, maybe either Jaws or Close Encounters of the Third Kind would be the Spielberg movie that got me into filmmaking.
Yeah, and just... Oh man, and just so everyone knows, this was released in summer 75.
Yes, the first ever summer blockbuster. So this is the reason why... This is kind of the reason why it's now customary for movies, or at least studios to release their films in the summer. Back then, no one went to movie theaters. It was considered dead season for Hollywood.
Yeah, because everyone was at the beaches. And what do? You release a movie that shows what happens when a shark invades a beach. Repeatedly.
And by next year, the beaches were just practically empty.
No one went in the water. No one went to the beach.
They were so afraid.
And then, more than likely, then it'd be me. I'm going swimming, bye.